I got so much motherfucking design on right now.
Break it down, bring it back, make it clap. I got 3 old thoughts, new block, where that thing, bitches on my line, and you know.
For International Organization of Standardization. The ISO is an international organization in charge of developing, establishing, and promoting standards. It helps to facilitate global trade by establishing uniform standards across different countries. These guidelines are designed to guarantee that products and services are safe, dependable, and of high quality. The organization, which today is known as ISO, began in 1926 as the International Federation of the National Standardizing Association (ISA). The name ISO is not an acronym but was derived from the Greek word isos, meaning equal. The name ISO eliminates any confusion that could result from the translation of International Organization for Standardization into different language, which would lead to different acronyms. The similarities between the ISO 14001, ISO 9001, and ISO 45001 is all of it have high level structure that consists of planning, support, operation, performance, and improvement. All these ISO also have same benefits, such as to increase compatibility of standards, to ease the implementation of new standard, to ease the integration of standard into a management system, to increase value for users, and to increase the effectiveness in standard development. The last similarities is all ISO need leadership and commitment. This is to ensure the EMS, QMS, and occupational healthy and safe achieving their goals and improvement.
Fazli, and today I would like to present about the class 4 context of this organization. For 3 types of ISO, which is ISO 40001, ISO 45001, and ISO 9001. First one, clause 4.1, which is understanding the organization and its context. For ISO 40001, the organization should identify the internal and external factors that are pertinent to its purpose and have impact on the capacity to meet the objective of its EMS. Similar to ISO 45001, it also must find the internal and external issues that are relevant to its purpose and affect the ability to achieve intended outcome of its OHS management system. And for ISO 90001, it focuses on the established internal and external constraints that are pertinent to its purpose, strategic direction, and impact its capacity to accomplish the desired result of its QMS. For 4.2, understanding the needs and expectations of interested party. For ISO 40001, it must determine the interested party that are relevant to the EMS, and the expectation and relevant needs become its compliance obligation. For ISO 9001, it must find the interested parties that are relevant to QMS and must relevant to the QMS system. And different from ISO 45001, it has understanding its 4.2 has understanding the needs and expectation of workers and interested parties. It must determine the other parties in addition to worker that are relevant to OHS management system. And it also can become the expectation and relevant of needs of workers and other interested party can become its legal requirement. For 4.3, determining the scope of the EMS, and especially for ISO 40001, it must determine the boundaries applicable of the EMS system to establish its scope. For 4.3, determining the scope of the OHS management system, which is for ISO 45001, focuses on OHS management system to establish its scope. For 4.3, for ISO 9001, it called determining the scope of the quality management system, which is the organization shall determine the boundaries and applicability of QMS to establish its scope. For 4.4 EMS, which is specifically for ISO 40001, it must establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve EMS system. For 4.4 OHS management system for ISO 45001, the organization shall establish, implement, maintain, and can continually improve an OHS management system. For 4.4 quality management system and its process, which is specifically for ISO 9001, that focuses on continually improve a quality management system, including the process needed and their interaction. Next, I will move to clause 5, which is leadership. We start with 5.1 leadership and commitment. For ISO 40001, they must taking compatibility for effectiveness of EMS. The EMS will achieve intended outcome. Similar to ISO 45001, it must ensuring that our HNS management system achieve its intended outcome, but the difference is it taking overall responsibility and accountability for the prevention of work. For ISO 9001 5.1.1 general, it must taking compatibility for effectiveness of the QMS, and for 5.1.2, the customer and applicable statutory and regulatory requirements are determined. For 5.2, environmental policy, which is for ISO 40001, it must establish, implement and maintain an environmental policy within the defined scope of its EMS system. For ISO 45001, which is 5.2 OHS policy, it must establish, implement and maintain an OHS policy that includes commitment to provide safe and healthy working conditions for the prevention of work-related injury and ill health. For 5.2 policy for ISO 9001, it has two, which is 5.2.1, establish the quality policy, which is focuses on its strategic direction, and for 5.2.2, communicating the quality policy, which is ensuring that the quality management system conform to the requirement of this international standard. For 5.3, organization roles and responsibility and authorities, which is these three types of ISO has the content, which is for ISO 40001, ensuring that the EMS system conform to the requirement of the international standard, and for ISO 45001, ensuring that OHS management system conform to the requirement and document, and for ISO 9001, ensuring that the quality management system conform to the requirement of this international standard. And lastly, which is on the ISO 45001 has 5.4, which is consultation and participation of worker, which is it must establish, implement and maintain a process for consultation, participation of workers at all applicable level and function.
Hi everyone, Assalamualaikum. Right now, I will discussing differences of ISO 14001, ISO 9001 and ISO 45001 in Clause 6, Planning. In Clause 6, there are Section 6.1, Actions to address risks and opportunities, and Section 6.2, Objective and planning to achieve them. In Section 6.1, we can take a look at 6.2, as opposed to ISO 40001 is concerned with identifying and assessing environmental factors. ISO 9001, which emphasizes taking steps to address risks and opportunities, and ISO 45001, which focuses on hazard identification and evaluation of risks and opportunities. Furthermore, in 6.13, organization must ascertain and adhere to legal requirement under ISO 14001 and ISO 45005. While ISO 9001 makes no such demands. Similar with 6.14, this section is required in both 14001 and 45001 for planning action according to its standard. Now we move to Section 6.2. In ISO 40001, it's environmental objective and planning to achieve them. In ISO 9001, it's quality objective and planning to achieve them. And in ISO 45001, it is occupational health and safety objective and planning to achieve them. In general, all three standards require organizations to set objectives, then plan how to achieve those objectives. This includes identifying the resources needed, assigning responsibility, and setting deadlines. The standards are also required organizations to evaluate their progress and make necessary adjustments. Alright, right now I will discuss for Clause 7, Support. In this requirement, there are resources, competence, awareness, communication, and documented information, as they are related to these three international standards. In resources, the organization shall determine and provide the resources needed for the establishment, implementation, maintenance, and continual improvement of the EMS, QMS, and OHS management system. These resources may include people, infrastructure, equipment, and financial resources. Up next, we move to 7.2, Competence. The organization shall ensure that all persons doing work under its control who affects the EMS, QMS, and OHS management systems are competent to do so. This means that they have the necessary knowledge, skills, and experience to perform their work effectively. Awareness. The organization shall ensure that all persons doing work under its control are aware of the organization policies and objectives, their role and responsibility in relation to the EMS, QMS, and OHS management systems, the potential environmental, quality, and health and safety impacts of their work, along with the importance of complying with the EMS, QMS, and OHS management systems. Alright, so let's move forward to communication. The organization shall establish, implement, and maintain processes for internal and external communication relevant to the EMS, QMS, and OHS management systems. These include communicating about the organization's EMS, QMS, and OHS policies and objectives, the organization performance against its EMS, QMS, and OHS objective, with any significant environmental, quality, or health and safety issues. Documented information. The organization shall maintain documented information necessary to demonstrate the effective operation of the EMS, QMS, and OHS management system. This documented information may include policies and procedures, records of training and competency assessments, records of environmental, quality, and health and safety incidents, along with results of audits and reviews. Okay, that's all from me. So, what's next? Let's check it out.
Hi everyone, I will talk about Clause 8. Clause 8 is about operation. First, I will discuss more about subclause 8.1, which operational planning and control. As we know, the similarities of these three organizations must implement the action identified in Clause 6 by established criteria for the process. Next, this ISO implementing control the process according with their criteria. Each of the ISO should control the plan changes and take action to reduce any adverse effect. Then, organization must maintain and retain documented information to the extent necessary in order to confirm that the process have been carried out as planned. For the differences in ISO 14001, the organization should determine the environmental requirement before do any procurement of products and services. Meanwhile, in ISO 19001, the organization should determine the resource needed to achieve conformity of products or services requirement. While for 45001, the organization shall establish and maintain process to control procurement of products or services to guarantee their conformity. For the subclass 8.2, which talk about emergency preparedness and response in ISO 14001 and ISO 45001. However, for ISO 19001 is a bit different, where I will talk about requirement for product and services. The organization of ISO 14001 and ISO 45001 shall establish and maintain process needed to respond on potential emergency situation. As mentioned in Clause 6, this could be done by prepare a planning response or action to prevent any impacts during emergency situation. In ISO 19001, the organization must provide information related to the product and know how to handle inquiries, order, and changes while communicate with the customer. Next, the organization of ISO 14001 and ISO 45001 must provide relevant information which relate to the emergency preparedness and respond to certain parties and workers on duties too. For requirement in ISO 19001, this organization should claim for product and services that they had offered to determine each of the requirements. Last but not least, there are other subclauses which can be found in Clause 8 of ISO 19001, such as subclauses 8.3 to 8.7 subclauses, which are design and development of products and services, control of externally provided processes, products and services, production and service provision, release of products and service, and control of non-conforming outputs. Next, we move to Clause 9, which performance evaluation. This clause divided into three subclauses, which are subclauses 9.1, subclauses 9.2, and subclauses 9.3. First, I will talk about differences in subclauses 9.1, which monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. In general, for ISO 14001, the organization will monitor, measure, analyze, and evaluate the performance and effectiveness of EMS, while for ISO 19001, the organization still monitor, measure, analyze, and evaluate the performance and effectiveness for QMS. And for ISO 45001, the organization will monitor, measure, analyze, and evaluate the performance and effectiveness of OH and SMS. Under subclauses 9.1.2, evaluation of compliance, only ISO 14001 and ISO 45001 only have this requirement, which is establish, implement, and maintain the process needed to evaluate fulfillment obligations. Same goes to ISO 45001. But for ISO 19001 has requirement in subclauses 9.1.3, which is analyze and evaluate appropriate data from monitoring and measurement. Moving on to next subclasses, which internal audit. Under the subclasses 9.2.1, these three ISO conduct internal audits at planned interval to provide information on EMS for ISO 14001. Meanwhile, for 19001 is on QMS, and for 45001 is on OH and SMS. Lastly, for the subclauses 9.2.2 have similarity on these three ISO, which is establish, implement, and maintain audit program.
Whereas in ISO 9001, we have three subclauses including 9.3.1 General, 9.3.2 Management Review Inputs, and 9.3.3 Management Review Output. So in 9.3.1 General, the management shall review the organization's quality management system at planned intervals to ensure its continuing suitability, advocacy, and effectiveness and alignment with the strategic direction of the organization. In 9.3.2 Management Review Inputs, the management review shall be planned and carried out taking into consideration the status of actions from previous management reviews, changes in external and internal issues that are relevant to the quality management system. In 9.3.3 Management Review Output, the output of management review shall include decisions and actions related to opportunities for improvement and any need for changes to the quality. We shall move to ISO 45001 in subclause 9.3 Management Review, which include top management shall review the organization OH&S management system at planned interval to ensure its continuing suitability, advocacy, and effectiveness. The management review shall include consideration of the status of action from previous management reviews, and the extent to which the OS and H policy and the OS and H objective that have been met. I will elaborate more on clause 10, specifically on 4 ISO 14001, 19001, and 45001. For clause 10, in general, ISO 40001, organizations shall determine opportunities for improvement and implement necessary actions to achieve the intended outcomes of its environmental management system. For ISO 19001, organizations shall determine and select opportunities for improvements that will enhance customer satisfaction, which include improving product and services, correcting undesired effects, and improving the performances of quality management system. For ISO 45001, actively seek out where possible realize opportunities for improvement that will facilitate the achievement of intended outcomes of the OH&S management system.
So we move on to the subclause 10.2, which is non-conformity and corrective action. For ISO 14001, the changes of environmental management system is made if necessary. Meanwhile, ISO 19001 update risks and opportunities determined during planning, and also corrective actions shall be appropriate to the effects of the non-conformities encountered. So there's a special case for the ISO 45001 that include in subclause 10.2, which is incident, non-conformity, and corrective action. When an incident or a non-conformity occurs, the organization shall react in a timely manner to the incident or non-conformity to correct it and deal with consequences, evaluate the need for corrective action to eliminate the root cause of non-conformity to ensure that it does not reoccur elsewhere. So lastly, we recorded and reported internally. Clause 10.3, which is continual improvement. For ISO 14001, organizations shall improve the suitability, advocacy, and effectiveness of the environmental management system to enhance environmental performance. For ISO 90001, organizations shall improve the suitability, advocacy, and effectiveness of the quality management system. The organization must consider the results of analysis and evaluation and the outputs from management review to determine if there are any needs or opportunities that must be addressed as part of continual improvement. For ISO 45001, organizations shall improve the suitability, advocacy, and effectiveness of the OH&S management system by enhancing OH&S performance, promote a culture that supports OH&S management system, promote the participation of workers in implementing actions for the continual improvement of the OH&S management system, communicate the relevant results of continual improvement to workers, and where there exist workers' representatives maintaining and retaining documented information as evidence of continual improvement.